The part of the prison for prisoners waiting to be executed was guarded the most. We went through many security checks before we reached Luo Jixin's cell. A guard saw Jack, pushed a button, and the cell door opened. The cell was dark. Jack pointed to it and said, "Go in." I walked forward and looked inside. All prisons look much the same, sad and plain. As I went in and the door closed, I clearly saw the man at the center of this strange case. He and Bai Zhuqiang looked like a perfect couple. He looked weak, and his face was pale, but he didn't look like he needed pity. Instead, he looked like a polite and educated person. His slightly long face and sharp, smart eyes showed that he was not only sane but also very intelligent. He sat on the bed, looking at me. We looked at each other for a moment before he spoke. "You are the one I wanted to see?" I nodded and sat on the edge of the bed. We looked at each other again. When he didn't speak, I became impatient. "Don't waste time," I said directly. "You don't have much time left." He stood up, took a step, and leaned towards me. In a clear, calm voice, he said, "Help me escape." I froze, very surprised. It was perhaps the simplest thing I had ever heard, but also the most shocking. "Do you understand what you are saying?" I asked. He nodded many times. I know it's a bit late to ask this." He didn't say his request was crazy, only that it was a bit late. I couldn't understand what he meant or what he was thinking. I sighed, wondering if I needed to check again if he was truly sane. I shook my head. "I know over 700 ways to escape from prison. I even know experts who say no prison is impossible to escape from." His face brightened. "So, you will help me?" I gave a small, sad smile. "If I agree or not is not the main problem. The problem is, for you, escaping is impossible." Luo Jixin's voice became sharp. "Why? They are not watching me more closely than other prisoners." I sighed again. "You don't understand. Escaping from prison is not easy. It needs careful planning, sometimes for years. And I couldn't finish my sentence." So, I raised my hand and looked at my watch. The sign was clear. He should have understood. I was telling him he had only 3 hours and 40 minutes left. In truth, it was closer to 2 hours. By then, the priest, guards, and head of the prison would be all around him, so he would have no chance to escape. Why did he want to escape? That was the only question in my mind. Escaping was impossible, so I really wanted to know why he felt he had to try. His face became even paler. He twisted his fingers so hard that I heard his knuckles crack. "No, I must escape," he cried, his voice sharp and full of despair. "Why?" I asked quickly. He answered back, almost rudely, "Don't ask me why. I am begging you, you must help me escape." I stood there, feeling helpless. "I'm sorry, but no one can do this. I cannot help you. Your wife's lawyers are trying to stop the execution. If they can delay it for 2 months, there might be a chance, and if they don't stop it..." I shook my head. "Then there is nothing more to do." He suddenly grabbed my hand. His hand was colder than ice, and it made me shiver without wanting to. His voice shook as he begged, "Mr. Wei, please, use these 3 hours. I must escape. Believe me, I have no choice. Please, help me." I looked at him with understanding. "Please believe me, I cannot do it." Luo Jixin shook his head, speaking to himself. "I killed him. I am not innocent. I killed him, but I had to kill him. Please, help me." I pulled my hand away and stepped back towards the door. I knocked on the cell door 3 times. This was the signal. The door opened right away, and I quickly went out. Luo Jixin did not try to grab me. Instead, he let out a very loud cry, "Help me. You must help me. You are the only one who can do it. You can do it." His voice filled the prison, loud enough for everyone to hear. I moved back quickly, feeling confused, as the heavy door closed, separating us. I stopped for a moment outside the cell. 2 guards ran towards me, looking worried. "What happened? Did he hurt you?" they asked at the same time. By then, Luo Jixin's cries had stopped. I felt a strange feeling. "No, nothing happened," I said. "I am not that easy to hurt." The guards kept asking. Visiting a prisoner who is about to be executed is dangerous. They know they are going to die. They can do anything. I gave a sad smile. Were they right? Luo Jixin had been polite enough, but asking me to help him escape? That crazy, impossible request was exactly what someone who had nothing to lose might ask. I walked towards the prison exit. In the waiting room, the feeling was very sad. The lawyers sat quietly, looking down, looking through papers without talking. One look told me their efforts to stop the execution had little hope. Sometimes, an order to stop an execution comes at the very last moment, even when the prisoner is ready to die. But usually, there is some sign of success before. I knew the lawyers' reason for trying to stop it was the same as their appeal. Luozhikian's body was never found. What if he was not dead? If Luozhikian was still alive, Luozhiksan could not be charged with murder. The lawyers held on to this idea strongly. This argument might have been strong if Luozhiksan had killed his brother in a different way, but he had pushed Luozhikian off a cliff that was 890 feet high. 7 people watched it happen from only 5 to 10 feet away. The lawyer's strong arguments were stopped by one sentence from the prosecutor. "Gentlemen, has anyone ever survived falling from an 890-foot cliff? The sea currents carried the body away, of course." That is how Luozhiksan's death sentence was made final. Leaving the cell, I felt very uneasy. I couldn't stop feeling that Luozhiksan's murder had hidden parts, a complicated story behind it. I wanted to help him, to give him a chance to tell whatever secret he had. But I couldn't do anything. How could I possibly help him escape in the 2 hours before he was executed? My mood was heavy as I quickly walked through the waiting room, ready to leave. But just as I reached the door, someone called out, "Mr. Wei, please wait." I turned to see Mrs. Luo standing in front of me. Her face showed deep sadness, which made me feel even worse. I wanted to turn and run away, but I didn't. Instead, I said politely, "Yes, Mrs. Luo." She looked straight at me, speaking slowly. We all heard his screams. I managed a sad smile. "Yes, they were terrifying." "I know those were cries of great desperation," she said, pausing a moment before continuing. "And I know he must have asked you for something and you said no." Mrs. Luo understood perfectly, whether because she was smart or because she knew her husband so well. I nodded. Yes, she didn't say anything more. She didn't say I was heartless or flatter me by saying I could surely find a way. She just let out a soft sigh. "Thank you for seeing him." As she spoke, she turned away. Her reaction made me feel even more uneasy. I called after her softly, "Mrs. Luo, do you know what he asked of me?" She turned back and shook her head. "Of course not." I lowered my voice so only she could hear. "He asked me to help him escape to break out of prison in these last 3 hours. Mrs. Luo flinched when I said this, clearly shocked. But she quickly became calm again, her face still full of sadness. "If he made such a request, he must have a reason." "I agree," I said. "I think so too, but I can't help." As I spoke, I spread my hands to show I was helpless. Mrs. Luo said nothing, only looking up to meet my eyes. She was a very strong woman, the kind who would not give up until the very last moment. Under her steady look, I felt even more uneasy. In my mind, I started to ask myself, was I really helpless? That question should have come from her, but she stayed quiet. Her eyes made me ask it of myself. Of course, it was not completely true that there was no way. Because the police trusted me and I had already met Luozhiksan, I could think of at least 3 ways to help him escape. But no matter how I helped, there was no way to hide that I was involved. If Luozhiksan escaped successfully, I would go to prison myself. Helping a convicted murderer escape was a serious crime. To avoid prison, I would have to run away unless Luozhiksan could prove he was innocent after escaping. Otherwise, I would have to live as a runaway for 18 years. That is how long the police can chase someone for criminal cases. 18 years on the run would be worse than prison. And I was not alone anymore. I had Bai Su, my new wife. Our marriage was a bright, happy light that made us joyful. How could I leave her to go to prison or live as a runaway? No, I could not do it. I could not be foolish enough to risk everything to free Luozhiksan. I quickly turned my head, not looking at Mrs. Luo. She sighed softly. "Thank you, Mr. Wei. He has no hope left." I forced myself to give empty comfort. "Don't be sad. There is still a chance to stop the execution. If it happens, you could find more proof for a new appeal." Mrs. Luo did not answer. She turned away, walked a few steps, and sat down. She held her head in her hands, silent. At that moment, Jack came to me. "What's happening? Why did the prisoner want to see you?" I opened my mouth to answer, but just then, Mrs. Luo looked up at me. In that quick moment, I changed my answer. "Sorry, I can't tell you right now." Jack shrugged, pretending not to care. But I could tell he cared a lot. He had been clearly annoyed when he brought me here. I knew why. Luo Jixin had asked for me, not him. Jack was a high-ranking police officer and believed any prisoner's problems should go through him. The fact that Luo Jixin chose me clearly made him upset. I did not want to explain anything to Jack. I started walking out, but he followed, saying, Wesley, if you are working with the police, you should tell me why Luo Jixin wanted to see you. I was annoyed. Jack was a great officer, but his pride often bothered people. I replied coldly, first, I have never worked with the police. Second, Luo Jixin is a man sentenced to death and is about to be executed. He has little to do with the police anymore.